Welcome to Warriors Corner number 4. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Major General Garrett Yee, Deputy CIO G6, Brigadier General Richard E. Engel, Deputy Commanding General for Operations, U.S. Army Cyber Command, and Brigadier General Jennifer Buckner, Director of Cyber G357, who will speak on cyber protection.
So, good afternoon and welcome to the Warrior Corner. We have the topic today, cyber teamwork, protecting our nation and our people against cyber attacks. And if you notice, there's 3 of us up here, but there's more in the audience as well that we've embedded to ensure that if we have a tough question, we're going to go to those individuals. But the whole idea about the cyber teamwork today is to show that, hey, it's not just one entity. Nowadays, it's really an enterprise, it's an ecosystem, and it's a team of teams to get after this very fast-changing problem set, cyber. And we use the term cyber in the broadest sense: cybersecurity, cyber operations, cyberspace, you name it. And so, as we go through a little bit about what we do, the 3 of us, and then go to questions in the audience, there are no questions that are off the table. We just may not have the answer to your question. And I know if Colonel Shell asked me a question about MPE and cyber, I'll just ask him, well, what do you think? And so with that, I have a few things that I'd like to talk about before we dive into the questions. And so, no kidding. You can't watch the news today without something happening in cyber. Whether it was, I think this past week, everyone's Facebook accounts were hacked or something like that. And now everyone's getting new friend requests and you didn't think you had friends and now you have friends, but they're not your friends. Or whether it be, something to do with the election system, or this past week and a half, there was something with the 30 large companies were hacked, to include companies like Amazon and Apple, companies that we are very familiar with that maybe has good cause for us to be concerned about in the commercial sector. So, when we talk about cyber in general, we're talking about whether it be supply chain, whether it be software, or in the Army's case, modernization. And so, as you may have heard at the opening ceremony this morning, hey, we have a Futures Command, we're modernizing, and every one of those priorities has a cybersecurity element to it. And so as we go forward in this modernization effort, there's also going to be, right along with it, the discussion about cyber with that. So cyber has changed quite a bit over the past 10 years. And so, I'm going to take you through just, a little, walk down memory lane for many of us. And so in 2010, what happened in 2010? General Hernandez, foot stomp. What happened in 2010? Army cyber stood up. Very good. Very good. Who was that? Marco. All right. 2010. 2012. What happened in 2012? Army Cyber Institute stood up. And I'm looking at Joe Hernandez, who is part of ACI. Yeah. 2014. What happened in 2014? Very good, very good. Cyber branch. And you're living that dream today, right? Very good. 2016. G357, Deimos Cyber. We stood up a cyber directorate in the G357 because it's an operational thing as well. It's not just something that we do to the network. Cyber is absolutely operational. So General Buckner, the director of Deimos Cyber, 2016. 2017. All right, I'll tell you. All the cyber mission forces teams became fully operational, FOC. All right, kind of a big step for us. And then 2018, what happened this past year? What happened at Cybercom? Cybercom became a COCOM, right? Right? So when you look back just 8 years, so much has happened. All right? And if you kind of paid attention, it was kind of a slow pace at first, and then 16, 17, 18, right? And cyber strategy coming out of the White House. It's accelerating. The change in this area continues to accelerate, right? And what we realized, and maybe there wasn't an aha moment, was that, we, the three of us in our organizations and ACI and the cyber school and others really, kind of said, okay, we absolutely need to be, part of an enterprise together as a team, as a single team, which is why the three of us here are spending time with you. We also have, in the audience, as I said, other organizations that are absolutely stakeholders as part of this. And, for me in the CIOG6, our role is more of the policy of the cybersecurity piece. And so there's not the exciting, offensive cyber operations. It's the day-to-day, secure the network, ensure the policies are in place so that we can have a secure network. But as you hear from General Buckner and General Engel, there's a whole lot more to this enterprise than what we do in the CIOG6. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to General Buckner.
Thank you, sir. Teammates in cyber operations and also there in the Army staff, good afternoon, everyone. I'll highlight a couple things. I love that General Yi has talked about how we view cyber as a warfighting domain, an operational domain, and cyber, electronic warfare, information operations, these are warfighting capabilities. Hence, the G3's leadership in this space. And as he said, everything is accelerating. And right now, we are focused on the growth and the acceleration of bringing cyber to the tactical edge. And when I say bringing cyber, I mean that in its most expansive view, bringing all of these capabilities, cyber, electronic warfare, information operations, to the lowest tactical echelon. We are focused on the brigade combat team first. That's our kind of first in motion, but 5 big advancements in cyber and electronic warfare. First, we are doubling the size of our electronic warfare force. This is not just about reconstituting this force. It is about setting conditions for our force of the future. These are important capabilities. The most important thing is people, as I know my teammate will also talk about. So the fact that we're doubling the force, and we will also almost double the amount of training they receive before they get out into the force, really increasing their agility in the tactical space to combine threat with environment, with mission needs and things like that. Part of that growth is we're also accelerating it. There could be the pace of growth, or we could, but the Chief of Staff of the Army, the Secretary of the Army, they are accelerating it. So we are going to build it far faster than we are comfortable with, but we recognize the operational imperative here to do just that. The second thing is we will put an electronic warfare platoon in every military intelligence company at the BCT level. What's important about that is not just that element of the platoon, but the fact that it is integrated with the military intelligence company. We view SIGINT, Signals Intelligence, as foundational to this mission space. It's not an accident that the Army G2 signed the SIGINT strategy. The Army G3 signed the electronic warfare strategy. Those are so important to what we're doing and will create an integrated force for that. Likewise, we are standing up an electronic warfare company in every expeditionary MI brigade at corps level. Same concept. We will also, we're in kind of a race against time. For those forces, we will begin experimentation for the capabilities that we will put in their hands. So we're going to build the people, we're going to experiment with the capabilities, and our goal is to put these these prototypes in the hands of the soldiers who will actually use them so that we can quickly iterate on what we are seeing from these operators. The fourth thing we'll do is stand up CEMA staffs, so cyber electromagnetic activity staffs, augment every echelon from the BCT to the ASCC with a staff element of 6 to 12 people made up of cyber and electronic warfare specialists, planners who can help integrate. And then lastly, we're also standing up a cyber warfare support battalion. And those expeditionary cyber teams will take some of the capabilities that General Yi talked about and downward reinforce. So our cyber will use them, understand our mission needs as translated by CEMA staffs, and then we will downward reinforce with those ECTs. This is all about acceleration and doing it on a rapid pace. And when I'm talking to industry reps right now, I tend to emphasize the idea that we are not about sterile, the demonstrations, as it were, in these environments, but we want to get your capabilities into the hands of our operators so that we can learn how to better train our people, what capabilities they need, and how we might inform our material requirements. It's an exciting time to be an electronic warfare cyber specialist, and this is all about getting it to the tactical level. With that, I will hand it.
Thanks, Jen. Hey, Jen, I think we missed our opportunity to maybe throw out some T-shirts or something like that for correct answers when we started. Maybe we can work on that next year. Get more audience participation.
Right.
Hey, Rick Angle, I'm the DCGO for Army Cyber Command. Appreciate everybody coming out today. I think we'll start with this comment, is I know there's a lot of industry here. As generally you start off with, this is a team sport, and it's not a team inside of the department, it's a team inside of academia and in industry as well. Innovation in this space is really inside the commercial sector, and we need your help to continue to be successful in this space. So Army Cyber Command, what do we do? 19,000 teammates in contact with the adversary every single day. It's innovated, it's mission focused, they're dedicated, and primarily 3 missions. We operate, secure, and defend our networks, active defense when required, and then we impose a cost on our adversaries through offensive cyber operations. Okay. A little bit about where we're going to. The first thing I'd like to talk about is people, as Jen commented towards. Sometimes we get wrapped around the technology and think that as long as we come up with the next tool or it's the next piece of technology, that's going to make us successful. I like to look at it a little bit differently. At the end of the day, it's people that are going to make us successful. And so we're in the process of developing a holistic talent management strategy of how to recruit, assess, select, train, educate, and develop and retain a world-class workforce that allows us to do the missions that I talked about earlier. We have spent a tremendous amount of time and energy across the Army. The Army and Congress have both been very good to us in terms of putting resources and assets in place to be able to stand up a cyber branch, to give us certain hiring authorities to be able to bring in the right type of talent, whether that's in terms of direct hiring or direct commissioning pilot, in terms of scholarships at both the graduate and the undergraduate level, to make sure that we have the right type of talent. And it's just not about, we tend to focus a lot on, hey, it's about the person with the technical talent. It's about folks we can put on computers, yes. It's about tool developers. It's about analysts. It's about the IT specialists that help operate, secure, and defend our networks. And it's about EW and IO as well. So it's a complete team effort there. Second really focus area for us is operating, securing, and defending the network. And I won't go into too much in terms of how we go about doing it, but I'll talk about the change in the culture and the mindset that we're working on. The network for the longest time has been seen as a service we provide, and it's not a service. The network is a weapons platform, and the weapons platform allows the Army to shoot, move, communicate, protect, and sustain. Without that weapons platform, the Army can't do that. And if it can't do that, then it can't be successful in large-scale combat operations. So that's the importance of the network to the Army. But it's a team sport, and it requires everybody to do it, all the way down to the private, all the way up to the general. Okay? And if everybody practices that good cyber hygiene, then we'll be better off. So we're working on that from a cultural aspect. The third line of effort I'd like to talk about briefly is where we're going as a command. My boss, Lieutenant General Fogarty, has been public about he hopes to be the last Army cyber commander. Not the fact he's going to get fired, but the fact that maybe cyber is a misnomer for what we do. Okay? Cyber is just one aspect of the capabilities that General Buckner just talked about. It involves cyber, it involves information operations, it involves EW. Okay? And it's the integration of those capabilities inside or throughout cyberspace that we coined the terms. Really, it's about information warfare. And that's a realization for us that when we first looked at cyber, we looked at it maybe as an opportunity to do some additional collection, digital network intelligence. Then it was, hey, maybe we can turn some things on, we can turn some things off, that would be neat. Now it's a recognition that great power state competition is happening inside of cyberspace, through information operations, and it's a place that we need to be more forceful on. And that's where we're going as we move forward. So, sir, pass it over to you.
So that's a great overview, and I think let's follow up on that discussion about people and talent, if we could. And so how does the cyber enterprise look into the future to ensure that we have the right workforce? I know that you touched briefly on some of the authorities that we have in terms of hiring and the changes. Can we talk just really briefly about what came out in the NDAA and what we can do now?
So I discussed a little bit beforehand, but I'll start with like the direct commissioning pilot. So the direct commissioning pilot allows us to go out and hire somebody who has the requisite skills anywhere from lieutenant now up to colonel. Hey, we've also been able to waive the mandatory retirement age of 62, so you can bring somebody in that's a little bit older that has those skill sets, and they can continue to serve. So now you have an opportunity. Let's say you can bring somebody in at the 04 or major lieutenant colonel level, hey, and now maybe you're bringing some of that pay disparity down, and you can make it competitive for what they're getting inside of industry, the commercial sector. You know, but there's other things about serving here. It's just not about money, and I think that's something that we need to do a better job of being able to explain. You're going to, whether you're coming in as a major, whether you're coming as a direct commissioning pilot, as a lieutenant, whether you're coming in as a direct hire from a higher fare, another one of the authorities that we've been given, okay, you're going to get experiences serving in the United States Army and Army Cyber Command that you're not going to get anywhere else. Okay? So you're going to get those experiences. You're going to have an opportunity to, you know, you can make the next great app, or you can have an opportunity to use those skills to go against our near-peer adversaries in cyberspace. I would prefer the latter. Okay? And then you have the opportunity to serve your country. So there's other things besides the quote-unquote pay that sometimes folks focus on that that we offer that other people can't. And those unique experiences and the opportunity to serve is one of them.
So to that point, I've been at every public engagement. I highlight the fact that we can, as Rick highlighted, we can assess as colonels. So we are out on the floor looking for the first colonel to assess, and the person who would do that is General Hersey. He just joined us. We don't know what one looks like, but we're ready. So if that's you and you are inspired to service, I'm all about testing the system.
I think we have it in the room.
Yeah.
So who this
Bill
morning?
Sternhagen, that's great.
Who was at the opening ceremony today? Raise your hand. Okay, keep your hands up. So who's a recruiter? We all, you know, according to the Secretary of the Army, we are all recruiters. Even if you're, you know, from France, you're recruiting for the U.S. Army today. With that in mind, you know, with the ability to come in as a colonel, that really does open up some possibilities to come in and serve for a while, and then go back out. And we know that you're all here to support our Army, so thank you for being here, but you're also recruiters, remember that. And so I think, Jen, from this group, we're going to find one. I think, was that the gentleman over that wanted to join? I think we had one. Talk to General Hersey over there.
Yeah, we're going to send you some candidates your way.
All right. So I think we just covered this question. What would you tell someone about, you know, what would you tell a person who is interested in this career field but unsure about joining the Army?
I think I just answered that one.
I think you just answered it.
I answered 2 and 1.
You know, let me just go on to the next question here. What do you see the whole Army cyber enterprise, in particular Army Cyber's part in that, doing for the Army commanders in the future? That's a very long, complicated question. Essentially, what's cyber going to do for BCT commanders and division commanders?
So I'll hand it over to you, Jen, 'cause I know you were going to cover that. But from our perspective, we look at Army Cyber, I think U.S. Cyber Command writ large has done a great job of building some exquisite capabilities at the national level. And now it's a matter of taking those same capabilities, integrating EW, integrating information operations with them, and now focusing on the cyber support to core and below.
And I would add that we now have some operational experience and examples of how we've been doing that. So the idea that we would take some of the things that have been centered from U.S. Cyber Command and Army Cyber, things like Joint Task Force Ares and the counter-ISIS fight, supporting Operation Inherent Resolve, we learned that we can take those capabilities and integrate them into a scheme of maneuver on the timing and the tempo that matters to ground force commanders. That was important operationally there, and it's also provided significant operational examples now that we can use to inform our own integration across every echelon of our Army, and that's our goal. And we've also learned a lot about the people, how we recruit them, train them, and employ them in order to understand a scheme of maneuver and how they might integrate, which I think speaks to the multi-domain operations as well. This is not, they're going to plan their operation and then we add on with cyber. This is, we are a part of the planning from the beginning And that's really, we're seeing that also in all of our combat training center rotations right now, also building ways to train it. So I think, and do it all faster.
Yes. Yeah, I think to me, the so what is, if you go back 5 years ago at a CTC rotation, we weren't doing cyber, really, right? And today, it's integrated as part of it. But it's still in the process of getting commanders to adopt the fact that cyber is part of their life until it happens, right? And how many of you were on Facebook this past week when you got your name, your name replicated, whatever it was, you got hacked? Well, I'll tell you what, if it's that easy to hack where you're at today, wherever you're at, they can hack you and get into your system in the tactical environment as well. No kidding. And so for us, it's that realization that, hey, cyber isn't just something that happens on the enterprise, it happens throughout all echelons, and if there's a 1 and a 0, you could absolutely be compromised. And so that's kind of the focus of what Jen Buckner's been talking about down at the BCT, at this time. Let's talk a bit about modernization. So we talked a bit about that this morning with the 6 priorities, 6 plus 2, but how does the cyber enterprise support cybersecurity and ultimately modernization? How about that one? Tough question. Maybe that's me. Maybe that's me. So okay, I'll answer that question. Every one of those priorities and the 8 associated cross-functional teams can't operate without a network. Whether you shoot a bullet, 1,000 miles or whatever, it's something that launches it, has to be on a network. Someone that tracks it has to be connected to a network. And there's a target that you had to put, some sort of electronic eye on that was part of a network. So everything, whether it be a long-range precision fires, future vertical lift, you name it, it's going to have some network component to it, and it's going to require that we build cybersecurity into this, right? And we talk about building cybersecurity into new ventures where today we bolt on cybersecurity after the fact in some cases. Some cases we're going around and saying, okay, take that thing off because that's a vulnerability. And one of the messages that I kind of continue to harp with cybersecurity is, if I gave you something, did I give you asset or liability? Back to the discussion of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? Who's read Rich Dad, Poor Dad? A few people, right? The whole idea there is, if they gave you a car, did they give you an asset or liability? Liability, right? That Jeremy says liability. Jeremy is right. It's because if someone gave you a car, you have to fuel it, maintain it, insure it, right? If someone gave you let's say, a capability for the battlefield and it was Wi-Fi enabled and Bluetooth enabled, did they give you an asset or liability? Or vulnerability, right? So it's a vulnerability. So if you build in the future systems with that in mind, you'd be very careful about what you included and where you included that as you build cybersecurity into that capability, all right? Okay, so.
I would just add, because I think we focus a lot on modernization from the enterprise level, but also what we're finding in these, as we bring cyber, electronic warfare, and IO more to the tactical levels, that of course we could have exquisite capabilities, but they're only as good as the tactical network, which is supporting our forces. So increasingly, when we're talking about material development and capability development in this space, we have to think about that integrated network as a part of that, because if we can't, support them with signals intelligence down to those levels, we will not be of value and integrated as we should be. So another reason in terms of strong partnership across the CIO G6 and their modernization efforts and us in the G3 on this.
Absolutely. Rick?
I just had one point, sir, which is the integration of cybersecurity into the PMs as we build weapons platforms, thinking through that cybersecurity so we don't build vulnerabilities into the next set of weapons platforms.
Absolutely. If someone asks a warfighter, hey, you want this? Absolutely. You want that? Absolutely. Hey, this is kind of cool. Yeah, we'll take that too. Before you know it, you're trying to lock all that stuff down after the fact, which is what we're kind of doing today. And so that's how we think about building cybersecurity in, not only at that level where it's kind of obvious, but at the coding level, where you're scanning the code as you develop. And that's something that absolutely we are talking about getting after in a more aggressive manner. Okay, so we've talked a bit about a lot of things, and so now it's time for your questions. Okay, oh, Chief Oliver, what's your question? Here's a mic.
CW4 Oliver, Air Force Institute Technology instructor. In regards to the security of our networks, ma'am, you spoke about SEMA, so you've got your electronic warfare and so forth. What about the 255 Sierras and the 25 Deltas? Because that's our embedded cyber network defense team. How will you incorporate them into the SEMA team, ma'am?
Yeah, I think thank you for highlighting that, because I think now that becomes that they're not. I think the SEMA structure allows them greater insight and planning into how we view this operationally, both from an electronic protect perspective, a network defense perspective. The SEMA element becomes your operational element when you understand what's happening offensively and defensively. So it becomes a natural plug-in place from the G3, I think. And then let's not also forget our Spectrum Manager as well. They also, so this is, I mean, the SEMA team, I think, is forming the nucleus of a lot of the planner or the TOC personnel who already exist out there. I think we help make that operational. Fantastic question. That this is what it looks like. Network defense is operational now, and so they join the team.
Was that an acceptable answer, Chief Oliver? Okay, all right, good, good. Good job, Jen. Other questions? Over here, okay.
Good afternoon, Paul Keys from Alliant Technology. So I'm hearing a lot about the information technology, cybersecurity, some of the traditional stuff. But what is the Army looking at from an operational technology perspective? The kind of where the industrial technology, the industrial systems join the IT architecture.
Can you rephrase that question? What about SCADA systems? SCADA ICS systems. Okay, so with the help of Congress, with 1647, we got some guidance on that, and so all the services got some guidance on that, whereby, for the next couple of years, we are funded to do a certain amount of vulnerability assessments of our industrial control systems, and also our installation and weapon systems as well. So that's out there in 1647, 1650, from 2 years ago, I believe. And so we're doing that and learning from that. There's a lot more to do, obviously, than what we were funded to do, but that was a great starting point for us and a great forcing function for us to get started. But Jen, do you want to say anything more on that? Or?
Well, I think the NDA 1647 and 1650 did provide the framework for us to approach this from everything from weapons platform analysis to infrastructure that's supporting our installations. And I highlight that while it is a multi-year effort, that we're not waiting multiple years in order to kind of figure out what we're learning and quickly adapt to that. I love also that it's a multi-service. So we're also learning a lot from our service counterparts and sharing those things. This is about outcomes and how can we understand both specific systems and how they fit into a more holistic whole, and what can we learn from that. And I think a lot of also our lessons learned are pointing to supply chain.
Yeah, and we get it. I mean, you walk into an emergency room and everything in there is Wi-Fi enabled or Bluetooth enabled. On any installation, there's a security gate, there's a child daycare center monitoring system, there's a fire alarm system, there's a smoke alarm system that's all networked. And so beyond just the control systems, there are a lot of other auxiliary systems that are now also networked and connected that have come into the network over the years, which we are now in the process of cleaning up. Good question. All right, now I got it. Other questions? Colonel Shell. Give Colonel Shell the
So what are the type of authorities cyber authorities that we'll see commanders, corps, and below to be able to get after and create those convergence windows that's core to multi-domain operations?
I'll focus first at the tactical level, because I know the cyber authority piece is a whole discussion in and of itself. But I love the fact that electronic warfare already has the authorities. I think our challenge is to get the people the formations and the capabilities to the right levels for them to exercise those. We've done so tactically already with EW authorities, Iraq, Afghanistan, so now we want to, I think, grow that and consistent with the authorities that those levels already have. On the cyber piece,
I hear a lot about when do we get the authorities that we need. I would argue we have the authorities that we need. It's a matter of, as we build the capabilities, I think we'll get the authorities that we need to enable the operations we're being asked to do. So as you bring that down to a tactical level, I would expect that if you're going to employ cyber, EO, IW in an integrated fashion in support of a maneuver commander in terms of timing and tempo to achieve the desired effect, you're going to have all the authorities you need.
That's a promise. General Engel promised that. Bert, okay, got that? All right, other questions? Go ahead, sir.
Good afternoon, Colonel Mark de Wolf, U.S. Army Cyber Center of Excellence liaison. First of all, thank you all for your valuable takeaways for this moment. I have one question. Since you have an emphasis on cyber teamwork, what about the Army's efforts on joint and multinational community to reach out? Thank you.
Great question. So we're already very jointed by choice and by directive from OSD. All right, and so that is happening, absolutely. And we know that, for example, the Air Force is good at some things, maybe better at some things than the Army is good at, and so we leverage, the strengths of our sister services. On the coalition piece, that is a maturing effort. But the beauty about the coalition piece is that some of the restrictions that we just talked about are not necessarily restrictions that our coalition partners have. And so at times we've been able to take advantage of those opportunities. But we do need to do a better job with that. And there's a lot more that goes into just working together. There's an infrastructure piece and there's a policy piece in terms of the international agreements that we work through, but absolutely critical for our future fight. So thanks for asking that question. But I'll defer to over here. Any other thoughts on that?
So I would just offer that in principle, we're making the assumption we're going to fight as a coalition, then cyber is going to have to follow suit there. Absolutely the case. And we are seeing that from development of a multinational partner environments network. So we're going to have to be able to utilize an MPE network that allows all the coalition to come together on that network and be able to secure it. And it has to be effective in terms of enabling the desired outcomes. So that's still a challenge we're going to have to work through, but it's something we're going to have to work through because it's going to be a requirement. It is a requirement now.
All right, so Shirley joined us. Welcome, Shirley. And by the way, any other questions that we have here? I wanted to give the Cyber Commandant, General Hersey, any, did we miss anything that you wanted to say while you were listening to us? You say you missed the first 15
We're going to make
minutes.
you do it over again then.
Okay.
I'm happy to entertain any specific questions you have about the cyber school. I'll answer a couple of specific questions about the direct commission. So there are 2 lieutenants right now on active duty that were direct commissioned. They have completed the majority of their training, and they will be going straight to their operational units in the near future. We have done a couple of boards since then, so we have some candidates that are going through the rest of the personnel selection process. And as long as that continues to go well, we'll have another few folks entering the direct commission class in either this month or next month at Fort Benning, Georgia.
All right, good. We answered that question with more specificity. Thank you very much. All right, so we're running down on time here. And so we're going to flip the slide here real quick. And we're going to remind you that what's October? Very good, very good. Cybersecurity Awareness Month, right? And so the theme It's a three-part theme. Remain vigilant. You'll have to repeat after me. Remain vigilant. Remain vigilant. Be accountable. Stand ready. Very good. Now you know with some muscle memory what the themes are for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And with your help, you will spread the awareness. And for the Army, it's not just the month of October, which is a DHS, promoted month, but it's for the year. And so it's a cybersecurity awareness campaign for the year. And so you'll start seeing like some social media stuff coming out of the, the headquarters on this stuff throughout the year. We're about ready to wrap things up, and so I want to ask for some final thoughts. We'll go with A before B. So we'll go, Rick, any final thoughts?
I appreciate you coming. Thanks for the opportunity to address some of the things that Army Cyber Command does and some of the things that DAMO CY and CIG6. I would start where Major General Yee talked about. This is a team sport. Okay? It's just not a team inside of the departments. It's a team inside of academic industry as well. So we appreciate your support and partnership.
Sure, I love the fact that you started with the most recent history. It's amazing how much has happened in the last 8 years in this space, and we're all about doing more faster as we bring all of these operational capabilities and lessons learned, cyber electronic warfare, information operations to represented across every echelon in our Army.
And finally, thank you all for what you do. And when we say cyber enterprise, it's not just like people in uniform. I mean, within the Army, it's military, it's civilians, it's our contract workforce, and then outside of, the five-sided building, it's all the commands across the services, plural, whether you're talking the 24th Air Force or Fleet Cyber, it's a joint effort. We reach beyond that into our partners here, whether it be one of the major partners with the services, Army in particular, or many of the smaller companies that are kind of up and coming that are providing a lot of capability into our networks. And quite frankly, there is so much in there today from our commercial partners that we know we couldn't do it without, the whole team as an enterprise. So when we say the enterprise, yeah, it's folks in uniform, it's our federal folks, it's our contract workforce, but it's also all the partners that actually build the network for us that enable us to have a warfighting platform that we can secure and defend and use to have a more ready, more lethal force for our Army. Thank you all for coming today. The three of us will hang around for a bit and answer your questions on the side, but thanks again.